Well, let's get some analysis of this News Limited shake-up. Professor Terry Flew is a Professor of Media and Communications at the Queensland University of Technology, and he joins me now from Brisbane. Professor Flew, a lot of changes in the Australian media landscape this week. First of all, what do you make of these changes at News Limited?
Well, it's certainly a very dynamic time in the media, as you say, Kim, that there's, on the one hand, there's a major restructure of the newspaper operations, and while no numbers were given by Kim Williams in his presentation today, clearly the number of job losses at News will be quite substantial, even if they are lower than those at Fairfax. At the same time, as your lead article points out, it's not as though there's not heavy investment going on in the media. The News proposal to take over the consolidated media holdings, which I think took everyone pretty much by surprise, indicates that there's a lot of money still to be made in media, at least in the view of News Limited, but whether it's still in traditional newspapers remains to be seen.
Well, News Limited CEO Kim Williams says that the company remains committed to print, and that is something that I thought sort of differentiated this announcement from the announcement that we saw from Fairfax a little earlier, where the CEO there wouldn't ever rule out perhaps just turning entirely to a digital media outlet.
That's true, although in fairness to Fairfax, they didn't say that they were abandoning print either, that they said that they were moving from a broadsheet to a tabloid format. Yes, one of the differences for News is that it has significant local newspaper holdings, and in those markets where, you know, the free deliveries to the home and so on, it is print that is paramount. But yes, it's interesting that they are more strongly of the view that there continues to be an advertiser market for print newspapers than Fairfax appeared to be in their announcement on Monday. What
we've seen this week is with both Fairfax and News Limited putting a lot of their content now behind paywalls, particularly from their flagship papers. Do you think Australia is set to become one of the few countries in the world where some of our biggest papers are actually behind a paywall online?
I think that is without question the biggest implication of the two announcements this week, that after the 2000s being a decade where we increasingly took it for granted that you could get online news for free, it's now been made clear by the two major print media companies that they will no longer make online news free beyond a certain level. And so, yes, that's a very major change in the news industry in the 2010s as compared to how it operated in the 2000s.
In this changing environment, what about the role of a taxpayer-funded media organisation like the ABC, of course, which also has a huge digital media online presence?
Indeed, and it is notable that a couple of pieces appeared in the Australian this week accusing the ABC of overreach in the digital space, and it's possible that something like a public value test that now operates for the BBC in the UK may exist for the ABC in the future in terms of going into new services. But it would be noted that arguments about whether the ABC is crowding out the private sector are the sort of arguments that you hear when there's a high take-up of ABC product. You wouldn't hear it if the opposite was the case. So it may well be that the major commercial companies may have something to learn from the ABC. Certainly Fairfax was quite slow in accepting user comments on its site, which in retrospect was probably a mistake. But yes, it's looking like the 2010s will involve paywall access for content, professional media content provided by News and Fairfax, while free will remain the case for the ABC and possibly for some other providers such as 9MSN, which is a not insignificant provider of online news.